Digimon Beatbreak did something this week which I didn't see coming and honestly really should have. I guess I've just been thinking about Digimon Story Time Stranger too much. Seemingly flirting with the idea of Tomorou's E-Pulse when he's enraged or angry, triggering a dark feral state for Gekomon, which for a second I genuinely thought was about to be a Dark Digivolution. But it did get me thinking about what that might mean for the whole season and something that's been in front of my eyes the whole time. So I guess welcome back, very briefly, to Karn Spooktober Spectacular 2025. It's gonna be like 2 videos this year, sorry. I'll make up for it next time. Oh, and thank you to my Fang Long Mong Golden God, Lupus Lichlord. What is up, digital companions? My name is Karn EX, and if it's not welcome back, if this is your first time, you're not subscribed, please do me a massive favor and hit that subscribe button. We are rapidly racing towards 100,000 subscribers, and this many people are watching my video but not subscribed. If all the people that watched my last video were subscribed, we'd already be at 100k by now and much more probably. So thank you, I appreciate it, and I've been very fortunate recently to be reached out to by games that directly appeal to Digimon fans and fans of the monster raising genre. And today's sponsor is no exception because it is Elestrals Awakened and their new Kickstarter. So you've probably heard of the Elestrals TCG before. It was started by another content creator called A-Drive who has 2 million plus followers, and Shady Penguin has joined Elestrals as the RPG's creative director. And they're currently running a Kickstarter that started on October 14th and ends November 7th to fund a full-on Elestrals video game called Elestrals Awakened, letting you bond with one of 8 elemental spirits of Earth, Fire, Water, Thunder, Wind, Frost, Solar, and Lunar, and set in ancient Greek mythology, uncovering mysteries of the Titan War. We're all big Digimon Story Time Stranger fans on this channel, so that is a natural fit. A new 2D pixel monster raising game with a huge Greek myth focus. What a one-to-one matchup, I love it. Backing this project on the Kickstarter is the only chance to obtain alpha and beta access to Elestrals Awakened, receive exclusive in-game unlocks, purchase exclusive Kickstarter promo packs, and even become an NPC or caster in-game. Pretty great rewards. If that sounds good to you, you want to support the future of the genre and support me in the process, make sure you go check out Elestrals Awakened's Kickstarter now. And back the campaign while you still can, because like I say, it ends on November 7th. The link to the campaign is in my video description and in the pinned comment, so go check that out and back Elestrals Awakened now. And thank you to Elestrals Awakened and their Kickstarter campaign for sponsoring this video. Alright, so Digimon Beatbreak episode 3. A really interesting episode with Tomorrow being able to cure someone of cold heart by rescuing her Sapotama, meaning that he can also potentially save his brother. But when he gets to fight Haemon, who becomes a Fangmon in this episode in a really cool set of battles, Tomorrow and Gekomon defeat the Fangmon and it reverts down to a Punimon. But Tomorrow's not done there, and I think this is so cool. He wants to kill this Punimon, so basically it doesn't reoffend, so it doesn't eat anyone else's Sapotama and cause them to get cold heart. In this process, in his fury and his rage at this Punimon, formerly Fangmon, there is a distortion that happens to his beat and his Sapotama, causing Gekomon to, honestly, what I thought was going to be a straight up Digivolution. In fact, basically every episode so far, there's been a moment where I thought Gekomon was about to Digivolve, and instead, Tomorrow just kind of boosted up his power with his E-Pulse. So instead of that, instead of a Digivolution, we get this feral Gekomon who doesn't seem to know what he's doing. In fact, when he snaps out of it later, he has no recollection of what just happened. But his eyes turn red, a dark aura envelops him, and he becomes feral, attacking, trying to go straight after this Punimon. And if it weren't for Murasamemon and Kyo intervening, Gekomon may have killed the baby. In fact, this is the core tenet of Glowing Dawn. They don't kill Digimon. They defeat them, reduce them down to the baby or in training stage, and then presumably hand them in for the reward. Or maybe they keep hold of them and look after them, which is apparently different to other cleaners who do kill Digimon. This is clearly a big point of pride. This really reminded me of 2 very similar but different moments in Digimon recent and older history. First of all, it reminded me of Gulus Gamamon. Gulus Gamamon being the earliest Gamamon evolution we saw in Digimon Ghost Game, and while not a traditional Dark Digivolution because it's more like Gamamon's default nature, for all intents and purposes it is a Dark Digivolution. And Ghost Game is kind of all about Hero kind of bonding with Gamamon, becoming his big brother and preventing Gulus Gamamon. The inverse is kind of true in Digimon Tamers. While Guilmon does have the digital hazard and seems somewhat inclined to naturally digivolve into Dark Digivolutions, virus types kind of leading towards, of course, Megidramon. Megidramon really comes forth when Takato's rage at the death of Leomon and at Beelzemon build to a fever pitch, causing this Dark Digivolution. And again, it's still specifically Takato's emotions that heightened Guilmon to be able to go all the way up to Megidramon. That to me feels more like what Tomoro did to Gekomon in this episode, his emotions causing a darkness within that isn't naturally there. Remember that Gekomon is a data type, not a virus type, even though he kind of looks like he might be a stereotypical virus Digimon. That also makes it much more interesting as to whether this will be a thing going forward or whether it's just kind of a one-off. However, really it's been staring at us in the face since the first promo for Beatbreak when they talked about emotion-devouring digital life forms or emotion-devouring Digimon. E-Pulse, well of course, building on this idea of like E-Ink, E-Dash, this kind of electronic mid-2000s terminology. Also, E-Pulse is like emotion pulse. And we know historically in examples like Takato and indeed even Tai back in Adventure, Dark Digivolution is triggered by negative emotion. But in many ways, a lot of positive emotion also triggers regular or good Digivolution. Sometimes this manifests as crest, sometimes this manifests as winning battles with your partner, but sometimes it's also the emotional payoff to a big arc or a character resolution. So really, I don't know why this didn't occur to me. I think we could see at least two types of Digivolution, at least specifically for Gekomon, if not everybody. A sort of positive emotion Digivolution and a negative emotion Digivolution, which would lead to Dark Digivolution. The cast for Beatbreak is quite small, as far as like main characters with partner Digimon goes right now. We got Tomoro and Gekomon, we got Reina and Pristimon, we've got Makoto and Kiropmon, and we've got Kyo and Murasamemon / Kugamon. My assumption is that we're not going to get a ton of branching Digivolution, but honestly, it's so soon into the season to really be able to call that at all. But based on Ghost Game, which, you know, maybe is going to inform this, maybe isn't, I do think there's a chance that at least Gekomon might get more branching evolution. Ghost Game did it, Adventure 2020 did it, and it was one of the things that was most popular about both seasons. I'm not necessarily expecting like Pristimon or Kiropmon to get branching evolutions, and I'm really expecting Murasamemon to get 1 Mega and then potentially die, if it is the Leomon of the season after all. But I think bare minimum, Gekomon having a good champion and a Dark Digivolution champion makes a ton of sense. Beatbreak doesn't seem to be at all related to toys. We've in fact heard that they were basically looking for something to fill the time slot and approach the writer of Digimon Data Squad to showrun the new season, not tied to toys as a Digivice. In fact, they almost didn't have the Sapotama at all. There was almost nothing resembling a Digivice in this season. We've not seen like V-Pets tied to Beatbreak yet. The card game sets are coming out like next year probably. This feels like an anime first for telling a story and something for products second or maybe even third, meaning they're not limited to that kind of structure as to what they can do. So maybe they'll keep things really tight, one evolution line for everyone, or maybe they'll go crazy. Have Gekomon have branching evolutions, have Pristimon digivolve into a Digimon we've already seen. For example, we got the brand new Haimon as a rookie Digimon, but it digivolved into an existing Digimon in Fangmon existing for many years before Beatbreak. And as I just mentioned, the overall kind of runner series composer of this season worked on Digimon Data Squad, and you can already see some Digimon Data Squad DNA in this show. We've got slightly older teenagers in the Glowing Dawn group, and the cleaners are operating in a kind of similar way. It's a little bit more unofficial, but they're still kind of acting like DATs, a group going after wild Digimon or Digimon causing issues and containing them for a sort of government source. In addition to this, you can also kind of see how some archetypes, while very different characters, still match up. You've got Tomoro, who is not a conventional Digidestined at all, very similar to Marcus Damon. You've got Reina, who's kind of the more leading, capable. You've got the very young in comparison boy to the rest of the team, Makoto and Keenan, and then you have the older, responsible kind of leader of the group in Kyo and Richard Sampson, although I also think that Kyo kind of lines up to Thomas too. So it would not be ridiculous in my opinion, first of all, much like how Lalamon in Digimon Data Squad eventually becomes Rosemon, which was already pretty much linked to the Palmon evolution family of Digimon Adventure, an existing Digimon, that maybe Reina's Pristimon does eventually digivolve to a Digimon that's already existing, or any of them digivolve to a Digimon that already exists. Maybe Murasamemon becomes like Baihumon at some point. And also, what was a really big pivotal moment in Digimon Data Squad? Oh, that's right, Shine Greymon Ruin Mode. Negative emotion overtaking, causing a Dark Digivolution mode change. This also, by the by, gives me big hope that we might see a new mode change for Mega level Digimon in this season, or maybe all of them going to the Ultra or Mega Plus level. We also saw Shamblemon and Mushmon in the second episode, and indeed the third episode. Shamblemon was a Digimon that debuted in Ghost Game, so there's a little bit more of a callback there. But as far as Dark Digivolution goes, I do think that's a really interesting concept, and I don't think they would have this dedicated kind of dark, misted over version of of the Sapotama if we weren't going to maybe see that animation again. I mean, reusing animation where you can to save budget is tried and true. This does also make me wonder though if we could go one step beyond with this idea, rather than just positive and negative emotion leading to a regular and dark Digivolution. Maybe things could go absolutely crazy here, with every type of emotion Tomoro feels in excess, in abundance, causing a different Gekomon evolution, because we do know that there is something special about Tomoro. We see in this episode when he was a young kid, the implant they put in his hand as a child causes Sapotama to go haywire, not just affecting his own Sapotama, but everyone's that it comes in contact with. This kid is overflowing with E-Pulse, something is different about him, and maybe depending on his emotion, how he feels, in this episode we see a lot of negative emotion, that could impact his effect on the Sapotama and Digimon by proxy. Maybe we're gonna get an episode where Tomoro is overfilled with happiness, and Gekomon digivolves to happy Gekomon. We get a sad Tomoro who misses his brother, and we get sad Gekomon. It goes on, and then the Dark Digivolution into Dark Gekomon, or Negative Gekomon. Each of them with a different attribute, type, elemental effect, you know, it could be really cool. Pretty unlikely in my opinion, but it's definitely something that could be explored in a season that is so intrinsically linked to emotion and the beat of your heart. But there is also the music beat factor, which we do have to consider, so I do wonder if Gekomon's evolutions could also be tied to different types of music, or different instruments, you know, percussion, woodwind, or maybe it's like jazz Gekomon, heavy metal Gekomon, that could be the Dark Digivolution. I'm really not sure when we see a Digivolution in this show. Could it be next episode, or could it be in 10 episodes? We don't know. Obviously we've seen Pristimon, but I do think they might try and kind of feed us slowly evolutions for Gekomon, rather than it being like an episode 2, episode 3 situation that we've seen in other seasons. I also then wonder what happens if Tomoro gets cold heart and for all intents and purposes is kind of dead or zombified. Do we get a death Digivolution for Gekomon, becoming zombie Gekomon or something? Death metal Gekomon if we're going with the music analogies. Something that I didn't expect about Digimon Beatbreak, I think because I was so zeroed in on Digimon Story Time Stranger, there's actually a lot to hypothesize on, whether it be the Shambhala connections that we're seeing, with Kugamon and Murasamemon having direct reference to the Eastern Digital Continent, or this idea of E-Pulse and the Sapotama, this evil group, seemingly implanting something in children to harvest potentially their emotions, their E-Pulse into the Sapotama, teaching them how to be model citizens in this presented utopia, but of course realistically dystopia, as most utopias turn out to be. What does that mean for Tomoro? Why is he special? Is he part Digimon? Is he related to Gokumon somehow? Is there something different about him? And what might that mean for the ramifications of Gekomon and its evolutions and their partnership? I'm really curious to see, especially if they do manage to cure Asuka of his cold heart. Maybe it turns out that Asuka's partner is this Gokumon we've been seeing. And my final kind of tinfoil hat thing leading to the idea of Dark Digivolution for this season, whether it happens at the champion level, the ultimate level, the mega level, or whatever, is that again, Gekomon is intrinsically linked to the moon. Talked about this in my last Beatbreak video, but he has the crescent moon on his forehead. In the first episode in particular, he is framed by or adjacent to the moon a lot. And if we look at Kekomon, and Gekomon, the moon goes from not being there to building into a big crescent on his forehead as he digivolves. I wonder, tying into this dark and light Digivolution, this negative and positive emotion, whether different phases of the moon might correspond to evolutions for Gekomon. So like a full moon evolution, full moon Gekomon. It's getting a little bit Pokemon here, sorry. Being the like most light and happy Tomoro evolution, but then half moon Gekomon kind of being a default in the middle. And then the Dark Digivolution could be something like Blood Moon Gekomon. Probably not because of Blood Moon Ursaluna, but instead of Blood Moon, what about Total Eclipse? The moon is gone. The light has been blocked. Gekomon has fallen to darkness. I don't know. This is super tinfoil hat. I wouldn't even say this is really like a prediction. This is more of just ideas and things I'm seeing, sparked by this very dark overtaking that Gekomon had in this episode. So don't consider this like a big prediction like I have my Shambhala thing, which I think is pretty rooted in fact. This is more just oh, these are some interesting observations, and I'd love to see Dark Digivolution in this season, because it's one of my favorite Digivolution types alongside like DNA and Armor. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. You got any other thoughts on Gekomon potentially Dark Digivolving, the phases of the moon evolutions, the music, or indeed your thoughts on Shambhala being related to this season too? I'm down for any and all discussion on Digimon Beatbreak. Thank you to my Fang Longmon tier supporter, Lupus Lichlord over on patreon.com/Karn EX, and my sovereigns, ZDK14, Chaotic Prophet, and Jeremy Babineau, as well as everyone else who is a member here on Karn EX. We have hit 300 members recently, thanks to a lot of you signing up, and even more people gifting crazy amounts of memberships on my Digimon Story Time Stranger stream, so thank you to everyone that has joined up or gifted memberships. Hope you're enjoying your early access and exclusive videos. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time when we go digital. Bye bye.